Is an allowance the best way to teach your kids about money? In this video, we're going to be talking about the 3 different approaches when it comes to giving an allowance, the pros and cons of each, and if there's one method that is better than all the rest. Let's get started. I'm a mom of 5 children, and when thinking, how can I teach them about finances? You go to the internet, you look it up, it says, give your kids an allowance. So, like, okay, that solves all my problems, right? Well, no, there are a few different viewpoints that come with giving an allowance. The first one says that you're given an allowance without any strings attached, so it's not tied to chores or to behavior. The second one says give your kids an allowance on conditions that they do their chores. No chores, no allowance. And the third group, well, we'll dive into that one a little bit later. Although their approaches to giving an allowance are different, they all have the same goal. They want to teach their kids about financial literacy. They want them to be prepared for real life and how to spend their money wisely. So then I was on a quest to figure out which one would be the best in doing that. So looking at these 3 approaches, the first one being give your kids an allowance without any strings attached. This one is great because, again, it's giving them money so then they learn how to spend it. It's not tied to chores, so then they learn, hey, we live in a household, we all work together, so you need to do your chores regardless. Like, you do your chores because you live in this house. This approach to allowance didn't really sit right with me because I felt if I gave my boys money, yes, they learn how to spend it, but they wouldn't be learning the very basics, the concept of what money is, that it is in exchange for value. So in a sense, I'm making it that money has no value. If I just give it to them, if I'm just giving them a handout, and I don't want to set my boys up for that expectation that they just are given money without doing anything. It's like, imagine you are building your dream house. It has the wraparound porch. It has the willow tree out front. It has the secret room. It has the built-ins. It has the beautiful landscaping. It has it all. So as you start this, you immediately put in the frame, but you completely ignore the foundation. What's going to happen? It's going to come crumbling down. Just giving kids money is only half of the equation. I thought if I give my kids money, sure, they could learn how to spend it, but they're missing the first half of how do you even get that money? How do you earn it? How do you create money? And I wanted them to be more on that side of how do you create instead of how do you consume. And I thought if I just give them an allowance, it's just going to be focusing on the consume part and not about the creating part. So I wanted to be sure that I had a method to teach them how to do that. Another point I don't like about this method is I thought that just giving them an allowance would foster a bit of an entitlement mentality because I'm giving them a handout. Sorry, there's no other better way to say it. It's not tied to their chores or to their behavior. So I thought they'd develop a little bit of an entitlement mentality that, hey, you always give this to me. Why aren't you giving it to me now? And what if they're really rude and disrespectful? Do I still give them that money? If it's not tied to it, then in practice, I do give it to them. And that just didn't seem right. Another thing I don't like about this is the dependency that it creates, that they're dependent upon me for that money, for their extra spending money. And I want to create children that are financially independent, that aren't dependent upon me. Yes, they're dependent upon me now. As they get older, that they can become more and more independent. And if I stick on this allowance, when does it break off? That's another thing that they're dependent upon me. So with all those strikes, I mean, it's out. Like, I thought that approach does not work. It doesn't teach the basics of money. It gives it no value. It's going to create entitlement in my kids and a dependency. So, not for me. The second approach I could get more on board with because it at least teaches the very basics of what money is. That it's an exchange for something of value. You're doing your chores. therefore you get paid. But this one also just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because it doesn't teach my kids about the runnings of a household. That we don't get paid to live here. We don't get paid to do our chores. We all work together as a team because we're part of the family. We want it clean. We want a happy space, a tidy space for everybody. I could see my boys also becoming little money misers because if they did any amount of service or did anything to help, they feel then entitled that, hey, if I do anything extra, I need to get paid for it. Hey, Sam, can you take out the garbage?
Yeah, that's going to cost you 50 cents.
Like, no, I don't think so. I definitely do not want that. And I also could see dependency on this one as well because they're dependent upon that allowance. And what if my boys are like,
hey, I don't want any money right now. I'm good, so I'm not doing my chores.
Like, that's not an option. We live in this house. Clothes get worn, dishes get dirty, floors get dirty. They need to be cleaned up after. I can't do it all myself. And so if my boys were like,
no, I'm good. I don't need that money. I don't want to clean up.
What recourse do I have? I have none because the chores are tied to the money and they're like, I don't want the money. Then they're not going to do their chores. It seems fair, but it's not fair to the household. Again, going back to working as a team, as a family, it would make that fall apart. So it wouldn't be a good option. So that left me with a third approach. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention the anti before allowance. Yeah, sorry about that. So this group, as you can imagine, they are against having allowance. And I can see why. There are so many negatives that come from just giving your kids an allowance that is it really worth the positives that are seen? For me, I don't think so. I mean, I know it probably works for a lot of people, but it wouldn't work for our family. So then that still leaves us the question, what is the best way to teach our kids about money? Let me share with you 4 tips or suggestions that have had amazing results for my own children. You can learn all about that in this video over here. It's right over there. I've got 5 kids. I've got some great tips over here somewhere. You can like the video if you like money.